the docent that was taking us around, and she said, "Oh, you know, the ghosts here, they just love me." And I said, "Okay, good, you know, that's great." And so we did our tour, and we were walking around, and when we played back that video, that digital recorder, we got a male voice on there and said, "Get out. Get out of here." That's all he kept saying was, "Get out of here." That's all we heard.
I got that guy too.
So they don't like what's going on over there.
No, I think
they just like
they
her.
don't.
Oh, maybe.
Well, she tells us stories about little kids, you know, tugging on her skirts and things like that, and I guess she finds that an endearment. But yeah, there's a guy there who's not too happy about people traipsing through that place.
Oh no.
Yeah. But it's weird. It's beautifully weird. You know, I roamed around the back, the grounds out and back late at night, and they've got those southern style trees with the moss hanging down, and you hear the crickets, and it gets pretty freaky out there.
You know, that little thing of water.
Yeah, there's a pond and there's a little island in the middle of the pond. Yeah.
Okay, so we walked, and then it's a grass meadow all the way down, and there was one of the slave cabins there. And as we started walking down, and we heard the door to the slave cabin open and shut.
Yeah.
And then as we looked straight ahead down, there were some trees, and there was a little opening there, and there was this big, bright light that was down at the end of that meadow. And there was no reason. It was like a ball of fire, and it was all the way down at that meadow.
Yeah, that's a freaky place.
Yeah.
I think it's partly because it was supposedly an Indian burial ground, and there may be unsettled spirits going on there.
That's always bad.
Yeah. I think a lot of these Indian burial grounds are where ley lines intersected too. I think Indians were very sensitive to the spirituality of their environment, and I think they selected these burial grounds at these locations, and that's why they remain very active to this day, some of these places.
What's the most haunted location you've ever been to?
You know, I get asked that a whole lot, and it's kind of hard to answer. Of course, Alcatraz and the Hornet are really, really good. Okay, I really like those places. One of them is my house in Fairfield,
Oh, you never told me.
Well, you know.
You never let us do an investigation there? Shame on you.
Well, it's really interesting because we have two ghosts there. One of them is supposedly my wife's father.
Oh.
And Sylvia Brown's son did a reading on our house. Chris, he came and did a reading, and he believes my wife's father, who died in Cleveland, Ohio, is now out here in California enjoying our weather and living in our house, and basically roams around about 3 in the morning. That's his time. I don't believe in dead time, but he just seems to roam around about 2, 3, 4 in the morning. And at various times when we've been up, either myself, my wife, or my older son, we've seen this vague outline of somebody sitting in one of the chairs over by my wife's desk.
So do you believe that Chris was right?
Yeah, I believe so. But the more active ghost in our house is a fellow we call the Shrouded Figure. And this is a really interesting guy. I think about 8 years ago, my son kept telling me about this dark-shaped person he sees upstairs. We have a upstairs hallway that's kind of open. We call it a gallery that goes from the master suite area out to the kids' wing. And my son was telling me that he sees this figure walking along up there. And I thought my son was just telling me stories because he knew I was writing about ghosts and he wanted to kind of be included in Dad's hobby. Until a neighbor came from across the street and said, "I have to talk to you because I'm seeing this dark-shaped figure walking around the house over there." Now, it turns out her house is the same floor plan as ours.
Okay.
They face each other across a court. And at that point, I started seeing this person upstairs in our house. I would be riding late at night. I'd look down the hallway at the gallery, and sure enough, there's this dark-shaped person. Looks like looking at a person from behind wearing a black sweatshirt with a hood up. That's what it basically looks like. Head, shoulders, well outlined. Not a cloud, but well outlined. So we see this guy all the time, and sometimes he'll appear downstairs and he opens and closes doors. Mm-hmm. You can just sit there and watch the door go open and close. And occasionally he'll take a glass or something out of the cabinet, and we've all witnessed this glass come out of the cabinet, move about 6 feet across horizontally in midair and then drop to the kitchen floor. We've seen dishes come out of the cabinet, fall to the floor, and most recently,
carry him over to the couch.
well, I think he's trying to get attention. Most recently, about 2 weeks ago, I opened up the freezer and there's a glass dish up there that had something there that I was trying to get, and this dish just came out about 3 feet and then went straight to the floor and shattered in a million pieces. This is unbreakable glass, Pyrex glass, which is unbreakable, right?
Why is he upset?
I think he's trying to get attention because we haven't been paying too much attention to him lately because my daughter's been sick and a few other things. So this guy, when we ignore him, he does things like this to get attention from us.
Have you ever gotten out a recorder and tried to communicate with them?
He hasn't talked, but I've heard a lot of grumbling.
Oh,
So I don't think he's very happy. I think he's a guy who had a rancher farm on the property years ago. He might actually have died there. Maybe he's even buried under our street for all I know. But he comes up either in our house or the neighbor's house. He comes up across the street, looks the same, and goes walking around her laundry room and the first floor of her house as well.
Oh.
So our house is haunted. That's one of the most haunted locations I've been to. I think the Queen Mary is haunted too. I really do. And we talked about the Myrtle. So there's a lot of spots. So I can't really isolate one favorite.
What about the Hornet? Did you pick up anything?
Oh yeah, well we did a lot of dowsing rods, we did a lot of EVP stuff down there, and I got a lot of the impressions, and using dowsing rods I was able to communicate with a friend of mine who died in Vietnam many years ago.
Oh my God.
And the interesting thing about this is that he died in Vietnam and he was never on the Hornet.
No, but he came for you.
But there are a lot of spirits on the Hornet that we believe are sort of gathering there because it's a gathering spot for people who served on other Navy ships or never were in the Navy. My friend was not in the Navy, but he's on the Hornet.
So you think some of the, like your friend and other spirits are kind of traveling to this area?
Yeah.
Kind of like the beacons going up, here we are, we're all gathering in this area.
Yeah, I think it might be what you call a vortex. It's just one of those spots where spirits can sort of manifest on our plane more easily than in other locations. Maybe they find that it's a friendly spot. There's so many spirits there. They're all military.
Yeah.
So they're just sort of among kindred spirits, if you don't mind that term, pun, kindred spirits. So the Hornet is a spot where I think anytime you go to the Hornet, you're going to have a paranormal experience.
Oh, well, I've heard voices with my own ears. I don't even need the voice recorder. We were going there so often that we heard them.
Well, I think now that they're finally embracing the paranormal, that, the spirits have always come out and people have always said accounts, but I think now that they're doing this and people are embracing this, they're really making it to where they want to communicate now, more and more and more, and they're getting louder and, and more wanting to. So.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think all this paranormal movement that is really kind of the second version of the spiritual movement of the 1880s and that went up to about 1920. We're in a sort of a second coming of that, so to speak. And I think when the spirits recognize that we are willing to communicate and not trying to kick them out or banish them necessarily, that they're more willing to communicate.
Well, and there's also, because I do a class, I work with clients, and so many people are now contacting me who've never had experiences before, and now they're having them in their homes. They're hearing things are getting louder, the ghosts are getting louder, they're getting people's attention who've never had an experience in their life.
It's anticipated that 2012 that was going to happen.
Yeah. It started before that, but now it's even going to get worse or better, whichever side you fall on.
Yeah, it will probably get a lot better, but there's going to be a lot of craziness going on too. What do you think of all these weird sounds that are being recorded? Have you heard about these?
Yes! Oh, I just got a chill again whenever I hear that.
I heard some really freaky sounds this week of
like that?
These. Well, they're musical notes that some people describe them as humming or a sound of rocks grinding. They've been described numerous ways.
Like metal almost.
You'll hear this loud hum come up, like an electric motor hum. It'll come up and then it'll kind of subside a little bit. These are being heard all over the world, supposedly.
Yeah, there's a video out that
there's several
people are
videos
saying that they find that some of them are not real, that somebody's put this together and they've seen, things. But I think something's happened.
I think some of it is real. Of course, the hoaxers have gotten on board right
Oh,
away because
yeah.
it's 2012,
Yeah.
and you're going to get a lot of that in 2012. Anything that comes up that's kind of new and exciting, that's truly paranormal, somebody's going to latch onto that and modulate it. And up on YouTube, you'll see something kind of stupid and crazy that'll sort of detract from the truth of the situation, which is unfortunate. But I'd really like to know more about those sounds and
Well,
what they really mean.
Ghosts are awesome. We all love them. They're easy to communicate with because they're us. So we're wired to communicate with them. But there's other beings coming in now that, and I'm talking about the little folk up above, that are making their presence known. So we kind of need to quit focusing so much on the spirits and start looking out to what's going on around us with these other things that are, quote, paranormal.
So you mean perhaps alien beings that are more spirit than carnate beings?
Yeah,
Yeah.
more of what we would consider, I think, that, from what I've been told, our whole Earth is surrounded by ships that we can't see. And they, matter of fact, just recently had a picture of one that was, I forgot where it was, but it was like cloaked. I keep thinking of Star Trek, and, but these ideas come to these people from somewhere. So, we've been visited by these aliens forever.
Yeah.
The pyramids
One
are
of the
part
greatest
it.
shows to watch is Ancient Aliens on the History
Oh, I
Channel.
love that stuff.
Right.
Oh, we
So-
watch it over and over and over again.
It's unbelievable.
Years ago, I read Eric von Däniken's book about Chariots of the Gods, and that was way back in the 70s, I think, and I was still in school, and it just got me so into the idea that the Earth has been visited for millennia.
Oh, yeah.
And in fact, one of my theories is that we are actually the result of genetic experimentation performed by the aliens, and that's why there's no missing link that can be identified that explains how we split off from other primates. There's no missing link there because there wasn't a natural evolution, there was a genetic process that split us off, and that alien visitations have been going on since that time to monitor our progress.
Oh, yeah, and you always hear about like Shasta. Even a friend of mine said that they've been watching Mount Diablo. These are all areas that they come in and out of, and that they've been here forever, and our government knows about them and is working with them, and they're doing a lot of testing. And you need to start looking. This is awesome, but you need to start kind
Did
of
you hear that
broadening.
knock when you said that?
Hey! No.
Yeah. I think our government does know about aliens,
They
and that's
do.
one of the reasons why I think our government is so arrogant, if you'll pardon my political inclinations. But I've thought this through the last several administrations, so it's not just aimed at one political party. But I've often wondered why we do some of the things we do. It seems to be born out of arrogance, and arrogance usually is born out of confidence initially. And so I think they've got something. A lot of people think that the chips in our computers actually were just reverse engineered from the spacecraft that crashed in Roswell in 1948. Yeah, and I think there's a few things along the way that sort of suggest that this has happened, because if you look at our space program, you look at the Mercury capsules that went up with 2 guys in it, and then you got up to the Apollo capsule that put up 3 guys. You're putting 3 guys on the end of a 360-foot rocket and blasting it into space, and they're coming down with parachutes, basically. Then the next thing is an airliner that flies back to Earth and lands on the runway. That's a quantum leap. And the thing that made that possible were the tiles on the outside of the space shuttle so it could re-enter like an airplane. And those tiles were reverse engineered from a crashed alien being.
Is that right?
Yeah, I've actually held one in my hand.
Oh
it's like
my God.
It's like holding air. It feels like it doesn't weigh anything at all.
Oh.
You can have a block of tile in your hand. It's just like nothing's there, but it can absorb thousands of degrees of heat. So I think that's one theory, not an explanation, but just a theory now as to how we might be benefiting from alien technology.
I have a question from Cheyenne,
Yay.
our loyal viewer. Cheyenne says, Noreen, I have a question. Why is it that some people can't see or feel or hear spirits around them when EVPs captured show that there is a spirit activity going on? Do you understand that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want me to try to answer that?
Yes.
One of the things one explanation may be that what you're capturing in your audio recording is really not something that's ghostly. It's an environmental imprint that is just triggering, and you're picking it up with an electronic device, but it's not ghostly, it's not spiritual, so you're not really picking that up with your psychic intuition.
And I think some people are so closed down because of religion, because of being taught. I mean, all kids, I watch babies, I watch little children, and I can see that they see things, you know, and then they're taught, no, don't do that, no, that's bad, no, and you shut it off. And you block it. So many people who say, I'm not feeling a thing, I'm not feeling anything. And I'm like, are you serious? Oh my gosh, this is nuts in here. That they've blocked it so much.
Well, that's what she says. She says, I've been doing EVPs in my house. Not a good thing to do, I know. But I have never felt anything or seen or heard anything in here. And I've caught several EVPs to tell me that there is something or some things here. Am I just that closed off to it?
I think so.
Well, it could be. Plus, you have to do your EVP in a way that it becomes specific evidence of something that's ghostly or something that's imprint. Mm-hmm. You know, if you walk around and you ask, what is your name, and you get a word on your audio recorder, let's say you get the word beer, okay, you got an EVP that seems like it's in response to your question, but it's not a response to that question. You ask, what is your name, and you get the word beer. Somebody's not named beer, probably. Okay. You know, or hammer, or whatever. They say something that really doesn't match up with the question. So what you may be doing is just triggering an environmental imprint, and this word just gets picked up somehow. So to know if you've got something ghostly there, you've got to ask very specific questions and try to get specific responses. And you have to get more than just one of them, too.
So what do you think of this ghost box that people use, where it's, you know, set and it just wraps around all these channels?
Through the channel?
Yeah.
I can't stand when people put those on. To me, it's just picking up noise. I mean, you know, it's like suggestion, it's like an EVP. If you tell somebody, I think it said, I am dead, everybody's going to now hear that EVP said, I am dead. So to me, this ghost box is just, you know, picking up words, and it gives me a headache. I don't like them.
I feel the same way. In fact, I talk about those in my book. And the way these things work is that supposedly there's a dictionary in there of hundreds or maybe 1,000 words, and each one is linked up with a specific radio frequency.
Oh, no, you're talking about
the obelisk and
the
things
obelisk.
like that.
I was talking about the ghost box, where it's
The Frank's box?
Yeah.
They're basically the same type of thing.
Same as
the same type of thing. What it is really just having a bunch of words that are connected up with frequencies. And the theory is that the ghost will trigger a frequency, and so it'll pick it out. I don't think there's any validity to this at all. And I think there's just so much possibility of contamination from
there
radio
was
signals.
A friend of ours, Devin, that's not who did it, but Dave Payne, who's a gadget guy. He's great at making the gadgets, you know, the boxes. And he made this box, and supposedly it isn't wired for words, it's wired for sounds. And so it's not like words that come up, but the ghost can take these sounds and make them into words. So I was doing a big event, and we were in back of the Angel store in Benicia, and there's a little boy who I've connected with, and so I knew he was coming up, and we were playing tag. So there was a group of people sitting there, and I said, okay, here he comes. Nobody can see him or anything, but I could feel him tag me, and then he'd go and hide, and then I said, okay, I'm going to come get you. So I'd find him, I'd go like this, and then, okay, come and get me, and then I would sit down, and then the box would say, come find me, or come get me, come find me. And then again, we did it again 4 or 5 times, this box said, come find me. And it was exactly what I was picking up with my gifts, this little boy. And it happened every time, and it was like, okay, that's something.
Yeah, I think that is pretty good at that point. But I don't think things like Ovilus and some of these other devices are any good at all.
No, I've just seen them use words. They throw out words, and if it happens to get close to what you're looking for, then everybody goes, oh my God, it's answering. Yeah. And then it goes back to say wheel. It's like wheel.
Yeah. So. And these radio scanners that scan frequencies too, you know, those types of things. I just think You know, it's possible that there is something paranormal that shows up on these things, but the issue is that one that we talked about earlier, you can't verify that there isn't some contamination or extraneous signal getting in there from some other unseen normal source. And that's the problem. Even if you get something, some words that really are compelling, like I killed my wife in this room, you know, it says, wow, that's pretty cool. You know?
I never hear that.
But, you know, that sounds like you really got something. But, you know, it's just so rare that you get anything like that. Usually it's a word, and if you sit and listen to people use these things for a while, very often it's like every third or fourth or fifth word might make sense with what's going on, and the others don't. And so people latch on to that one word out of five, you know, and that's not good science to say that, you know, 1 out of 5 proves anything, because it really doesn't.
But see, if you're just to have fun, and there's nothing wrong with having fun in the paranormal. There's nothing wrong with it then. As long as it's just kind of a fun thing, it's kind of like, you know, people used to do the Ouija boards and all that. I hate those things. But anyway, as long as they're just having fun with it, then it's all good, I think.
Yeah, and in fact, the maker of Obelisk has right on the box, I believe it says, just for entertainment purposes only, or something like that. It's a disclaimer.
Well, they've made a lot of money. All these guys have made so much money off of these gadgets.
Yeah.
You know, when we started out, we just used to use a recorder with a tape, and I used to use the the Polaroid, the instant Polaroid. They don't make the film anymore, and a camera. That's what we started with, and we used to get all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. I still think audio recorders are the best technical device to use for a whole lot of reasons, but they're just easy and convenient, and you can take your audio back and put it on a computer and use Audition or some other software to clean it up, you know, get rid of some extraneous sounds, and you can really hear things that are pretty good. One of the best I ever got was at the Neptune Columbarium in San Francisco. Good place to go.
Oh, yeah.
There's 7,000. The remains of 7,000 people in this place, and it looks like some ancient tomb, but it really was built in 1896. But you go in there, and one I got right at the niche of little Viola von Staten, whose ghost has been seen walking around the place actually quite a bit. But I left my recorder there, and I walked around, and when I came back, took it home and put it in the computer, and I got a really good EVP. It says Michael Quip sleeps forever. A whole sentence.
Wow.
So of course I looked it up, and Michael Quip is buried in the Neptune Columbarium.
Oh my God.
That's a pretty good audio.
And that was her saying it? Or
No, it was a sounded like an older female voice and not Viola's voice, but I left it right there at the niche.
Wow.
So it could have been a spirit that was just kind of walking in that area.
Oh.
Yeah, Michael Quip sleeps forever. It's just very clear.
Wow.
Very clear. It's really good. So it's a good place to go.
Now, have you ever done EVPs and played it back and gotten more than just, besides this one, and gotten just more than one word, like in that sentence?
Yeah, I've gotten that one in Neptune. I've gotten quite a few others too, in places like the Queen Mary and, of course, a lot of places in New Orleans and up in Seattle. I've gotten sentences too.
Now, why do you think some people, there's the couple who seem to get just a whole bunch of sentences everywhere they go? Why do some people get such fabulous EVPs everywhere they go, and other people can barely get a word out?
Yeah, I think you're talking about that couple from Nevada that's sort of become the EVP stars. Yeah. Well, maybe they are. Okay. I'm not too impressed with some of the stuff that I see them present on TV, on some of the TV shows. I think some people are triggers for EVP. And people who are triggers for EVP are generally getting environmental imprints. Something about their own personal electromagnetic field. When they walk into a room, they can sort of trigger the environment to play these sounds. So you pick up a lot of those things. And I think a lot of those, when you investigate what the actual sound is in relation to what the question was, it's really environmental imprint and not ghostly. Now, there are others who can get in touch with their psychic self and project kind of a welcoming environment and really pick up good audio from ghosts.
Wow.
And really good. But you've got to be able to project that and get in touch with yourself. And a lot of technical ghost hunters don't even bother with that.
No.
So probably 95% of what they get is environmental imprints. But I think if you can, I like to do a bit of a meditation to sort of block out the environment around me, shield myself against internal and external distractions, and then just try to create this welcoming psychic presence, and that will allow spirit to manifest, and then and speak from that position. And then usually I get quite a bit. And sometimes it doesn't come out on the audio recorder, but I can hear them speaking.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that question asked many times. How come we get one word and instead of sentences? But why do they usually just spit out one word? Why can't they talk in sentences all the time?
Yeah. Usually the one-word stuff is environmental imprints. It's just fragments, like these sound bursts we talked about earlier at Brookdale. It's just you've been able to trigger this little sound burst in the environment. So you get one word or two words or something like that. Or you'll get something that has a lot of static attached to it.
Right.
So it's a sound burst.
Sometimes on ghost hunters or ghost adventures, they'll get 2 or 3 words, but it's kind of a lot of static involved. So they try to clean it up with audio audition, and you can start to pick things out there. But it's just a sound burst.
Well, like when you get an EVP that says "Get out of here."
That's a pretty good one.
That's
That's
a
a
good
sentence. Yeah. Especially if it matches up with somebody who was maybe an angry person in life, and your research may have revealed he was an angry person. Maybe he harmed his family or something like that. He wouldn't want you around. So there's good historical corroboration there. One of the ways I like to do my audio is to put the recorder down, so any personal electromagnetic field in my body isn't going to interfere with that. Put it down. You can put 2 or 3 of them in each corner of the room, for instance, and just sit back and just let things pick up. Some of the best stuff I've got is when I put a recorder there and just walked away.
Oh,
yeah.
Just
Yeah.
let it go. You come back and you play it back later that night, and there's
Wow,
this is people are talking and there's dancing, there's music and all this stuff coming on. But to get really good verification that's ghostly, you've got to ask that question and get a valid response.
Right.
And ideally, you've got to get 2 or 3 of those, and then you've got something that's really ghostly. And a way to do that is to use a psychic method that we talked about, is to create this welcoming environment and to make a connection with the spirit so that they don't feel threatened and they feel that you are somebody who truly wants to communicate with them. And then you might get some really good stuff. It takes a lot of patience, and it takes a lot sometimes of going back to the same spot several times, something that a lot of people don't do.
You need to
Either.
build a relationship. One of the things, it's funny, I go back to our tour, but we've been doing it a year, and there was somebody who commented that they have a hard time believing that we can get spirits to do things on command. Well, we don't get spirits to do things on command, but they sure do like the attention. They sure do come out when we come around. We actually have a spirit that we pay in whiskey, and so we have a shot. We put a thing of whiskey out, and he'll come and he'll play with us, and he'll play with the ladies. And but if we don't have it, one time I couldn't get it before we did the tour, and I was doing it by myself, and I was having a hell of a time getting him to cross rods and light up lights and do this and touch hair. And I'm like, okay, I will bring you one after, and I had to stop and bring him a whiskey, but. It's going and building a reputation, building a relationship, and it really does work. You have to go time and time and time again, because it's like walking in. I don't know how many times I walked into a place and I'm like, so how'd you die? And they're like, you know how rude that is? You're asking me this. I don't know who you are. I don't know why you're asking me. But it's being respectful. It's building a relationship.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And I go to websites of a lot of groups, and they like to advertise that we investigated 60 places this year. I'm thinking, 60 places in 52 weeks? How did you do all that?
Busy.
I'd rather you go to 10 places 6 times, or 6 places 10 times, and tell me how many of those 10 visits you got good audio or good video or good still pictures or whatever. And then you're going to start to build up a body that you might call a scientific body of evidence there. If you go one time, it's a shot in the dark. You might get it, you might not get it. But I think it's important to go back and establish that relationship. You know, it's like other living humans. When you meet somebody, they're not entirely open that first meeting, but the third or fourth time, they're liable to sit down with you and talk about their personal life. I think ghosts are the same way. They're not going to answer, did you kill your wife, or did you kill yourself in this room? They don't know who you are. They don't know what you want. So you've got to introduce yourself and maybe, you know, pay your dues in terms of time before they get to know you.
And I think also many investigators forget. They don't just want to talk about their death. They love to talk about the things that they love to do in life. Maybe they like knitting. Maybe they like fishing. These are ways to get them to communicate, to get that, you know, proof, to get the lights to go up, to get the audio, is to talk about what did you like in life? What did you like to do? Whiskey. You know, women, whiskey, and gambling. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to talk about his death, so we don't. Out of respect, we don't say how he died because it isn't what he wants to project.
Yeah.
So it's remembering, it's not just about the death, it's also about what did they do in life? What did you like to do? Did you like gardening? And you'll get a lot more responses that way.
I think so. And if you want to use other devices too, like if you want to use EMF or infrared video or something like that, it's really good to use those in a remote fashion. One of the best things I've seen on ghost adventures was they went to the catacombs of Scotland, and they took a trigger object, a little teddy bear, put it on a mound. This is kind of underground in Scotland where people used to live. And they put an EMF detector there. And then they got back about 30 feet and used a telephoto lens on their cameras to monitor these things. And sure enough, you see the teddy bear turn, and the lights on the EMF detector are just flashing like crazy when this teddy bear turns. And it's great evidence because you've got an inanimate object moving through nothing normal, so it's paranormal, and at the same time you've got this electronic device picking up some change in the local electromagnetic field. So that's a good way to do it. Do it remotely. Stand back and observe. And I think that works out better than standing in the environment and interfering with the EMF pattern in a room such as this.
How do you feel about people that do EVPs every day in their house with the recorder?
Well, probably ghosts would get tired of that, just like anybody else would, I guess.
Do you think you can bring in anything bad by doing that?
I know people suspect that you can bring in bad spirits by sort of inviting them to communicate with you, but my current thinking is that you're not going to bring them in just because you ask them to make some sound. They're there because they want to be there. And whether you want them there or not, they're probably there. So I don't think trying to do EVP is going to bring a bad spirit from, say, San Jose to your house here in Walnut Creek, something like that. It's not going to happen, I wouldn't think. Do you agree?
I do to a degree, but I also think people need to be specific on who they want to come in.
Oh, sure.
So it's like, it doesn't hurt to have a little extra, precaution that I just like somebody nice to come in, and I don't want, because it's kind of like if you open up to who's ever in the area, because they're roaming around, you might get some angry drunk guy who suddenly comes into your house, and then doesn't want to go, and then he's a mean guy, he starts doing horrible things in your house. So I would be very careful about who you do want to come
in. Well, if you're going to do it at your house, and you're going to stay in your house, you can't leave it if a bad ghost comes in.
That's the thing.
Okay? What you want to do is some background research first. Look back through the title of your house and the history of the land, and maybe you'll find out that in your 90-year-old house, back in the 1940s, was a woman named Emily, who died at the age of 30 in the upstairs bedroom. Okay, now do your EVP asking to speak to Emily.
Nice.
Okay, you're focused. Nobody else is paying any attention to you if the bad guys are around because you're now asking about Emily. So background research can maybe offer a little bit of protection.
Excellent. I love that. Yeah.
Now we had an investigation done here just about a year ago. And one of the team members I had was heavily into the aliens. And they did EVP work upstairs. And they were getting a clicking clicking sound off of their voice recorder.
Why are they trying to get aliens?
Well, they weren't. It was coming through.
But you were saying that they were.
Well, she is heavily into
She's
aliens.
kind of into it.
So why is
And-
she attracting that though?
I don't know. And so the other team member, I let them go at it upstairs because I didn't want to get involved in it. But they said when they played back their voice recorder, they were getting clicking.
You get what you attract. So she's looking for these aliens. You put out the signal out to whoever that this is who I want. It's like you said, Emily, I want to talk to you. You know, if you've done the research. Well, if she's got her energy going towards some alien, who's going to come in and say, hey?
So it wasn't necessarily in my house. It was her doing the
I
investigation.
assume. Or it was her own. I mean, our minds are amazing. And our minds can do amazing things. So it was her wanting it so bad that it can make it happen to where she's hearing clicking. And it was nothing at all. It was just her, wanting it so bad she can make it happen.
Interesting. So teams just starting out, most of these teams today, they think it's a fun thing to do.
Yeah,
What's
it is.
extremely dangerous. Can you give them some ideas of how dangerous the parent doing this ghost hunting is?
It can be dangerous on a number of levels. One is self-delusion. You can get so wrapped up in this, like you can't anything else, that you start disregarding other important things in your lives, like your jobs and your family and things of this sort, even your health. I know a lot of people will spend the weekends all night Friday night being out at some location and go out again Saturday night and just drag themselves to work Friday morning exhausted and miserable. So you got to be careful about that sort of thing too. But you also have to be careful about dealing with spirits that might be harmful to you. And I know that it's possible for angry or evil spirits to attach to a living. And very often I'm contacted by people who feel that they have a spirit attached. And I think that's a real possibility. You tend to agree with that?
Very much. 100%.
I've often recommended that people develop a process of protection. You can use things like holy water, and you can carry St. Benedict medals and things of this sort. You can do incantations. You can use prayer if you wish to do that. And you should do it probably before you enter a place, and carry these protective icons with you. And also when you leave, make sure that you let any spirits that are near you know that you're leaving and they're staying. That won't always keep them there, but
No, it helps.
sometimes it helps to let somebody know that you're not leaving with me. I'm getting in my car and I'm leaving. This is where you're staying. But some people use rituals, incantations, and prayers when they leave a haunted location to try to leave that spirit there. We have a mutual friend who's still troubled by this, and he lives in Chicago, and his attachment occurred in San Diego.
So his is actually an attachment?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. I've tried to connect him up with Mrs. Warren back east to help get him detached. And I think that's a real hazard that spirits can attach. Generally, spirits don't travel. Most ghosts are sort of place-bound or object-bound, but some of the more angry, evil spirits, and I'm talking about demons now, but angry, evil spirits, they will attach it. They think there's an advantage there, and they tend to focus on two different classes of people. They will attach easily to people who have various weaknesses, perhaps heavy drug use, alcoholism, that sort of thing. Sometimes people who just are unlucky enough to have illnesses will attach to that person. But at the other end, they'll also attach to people who they think they can use, people who are exceptionally intelligent or skilled in some area, like our mutual friend. And they'll attach to that person too, because they think they can use that person's intelligence or connections or skills and use them in the way that they try to manifest on our plane. So I think it can be dangerous. Generally, paranormal investigation isn't dangerous, but there's a potential for that.
And what about loss of religion? I've heard that many times. They've lost their faith.
See, I'm not quite sure how that could happen, because to me, all this affirms that there is a spirituality to mankind. That's the basis of religion, I think, that we all have a spirit. We're not just, physical, biological beings that live, die, and then we're meat for the worms, but that we have a spirituality, a soul, if you will, that transcends bodily death. That's a basis of Christianity and other religions as well. And I think recognizing that there is this spirit that exists without a body, that is affirmation of spirituality. And so I don't think I would lose my religion over this. Have you run into people who think that they've lost their religion or their religious faith has been diminished by this?
I think so, yeah.
Really?
Well, they suddenly feel that because they have something that's attached to them that God turned away. And I truly believe that religion does not belong in the paranormal. Not that spirituality doesn't, not that not believing in something, but religion tends to put people into fear. A lot of, and I don't want to say just Catholics, but a lot of the stronger religions, have all these beliefs in horribleness and in guilt and suffering. And I know spirits, they know you in seconds. I know the dark entities know you in seconds. They know your weaknesses and your strengths, and they're going to use that to get what they want from you. Mm-hmm. So sometimes people get into horrible depressions and they feel that they've been abandoned. And so I think sometimes religion gets in the way of this.
Yeah. I think ghosts that are still earthbound, they can be angry, they can be benevolent, they're still under that umbrella of free will that we have. Yeah. So just because they've died, they don't become angelic, all-knowing, benevolent beings. Just because you die. You can die, the body's dead, but your spirit is still angry and mean and criminalistic and belligerent and everything else until you cross over.
Yes.
And once you cross over into whatever that crossing over means, once you cross over, then there is this process of reorientation, purification, amelioration, whatever you want to call it, where the spirit discards all that anger and criminality and belligerence and starts to move closer to that whatever that perfectness is that we all seek. Yeah. And that's where we get closer to God if you want to get a little bit more religious about it. But these spirits that we're dealing with here on earth are the same as living people, can be just as angry, just as mean, just as dangerous, but just because they're dead doesn't mean that they've somehow become more angelic. Mm-mm. And they're not more intelligent either.
No.
Not at all.
Somehow people think that if they contact the dead, they're going to have the meaning of life, they're going to know what it means to be dead, and basically it's just you're dead. You don't have a body anymore, but if they're still here, they don't know any more than we know.
That's exactly right.
And that was my biggest lesson in all this, is that they don't have any more insight than we do.
Not yet.
It wasn't until they go to the other side.
Yeah.
Wherever that is, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you do, say you're having a really great EVP session, and what we would used to do, we would do EVPs, and then we would play the voice recorder back. And say it's really going good, And then all of a sudden you start asking the spirit, well, what is it like on the other side? And then they stop talking to you completely.
Yeah, they probably have no knowledge of what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. That's probably why.
Is that why?
Yeah, some people have theorized that ghosts are instructed not to communicate with the living or not to reveal some of the secrets of the other side and all that. But as we've just been saying, I think the ghosts that we are in contact with in our paranormal investigations are earthbound, if you want to use that term, and they're just no different from us, except they don't have a body anymore. They don't have any other knowledge. In fact, they may have less understanding of this whole
I think the longer they stay here, the more confused they become, and time changes. That's why a lot of times that people feel, well, why are they waking me up at 3 o'clock? Well, that's the best time, because they don't have a time frame, really. They're kind of in this, I don't want to say limbo, but it's not the same as being alive. It's not good. And they seem to kind of deteriorate over time to where they do become angry, confused. They just don't get it. And I've seen them kind of deteriorate. Yeah. So there's something.
I think ghosts that have been around a long time and show signs of that deterioration, those are the ones that the process of crossing over, it should be facilitated for them. Mm-hmm. I'm a little reticent sometimes when I hear people talk about, we're going to go to a haunted house help the ghost cross over. Well, maybe the ghost isn't ready to cross over. Maybe they've got unfinished business. Maybe they feel they need to offer protection, and we don't want to somebody or something, and we don't want to rip them away from that. Because, who are we to say that they should move on? They died 3 weeks ago, and we're going to go in and help them move on. Well, that's too soon.
They don't.
But if a ghost has been around for 60, 70, 80 years and it's showing some confusion or deterioration, that would be a good one to try to help cross over.
And it's a matter of, everybody knows, and I've been told this, everybody knows that when they die, what happens, what they're supposed to do. They all know. It's just they choose not to. Whether it's a white light or what, I don't know. They choose not to for what, there's always a reason why spirit stays. Whether it's guilt, whether it's anger, whether it's I love life so much I don't want to leave it, my family's going to fall apart if I go, I'm going to stay. There's always a reason. And so it's that, I'm asked all the time, well, don't you feel a moral obligation to cross them over? No, that's not my job. My job is to say, do you know there's probably a better place to go? And why don't you head on over there? They can or can't do it. It's up to them. Can I block them from a house? I can do that. I can get them out. I can block them. They can't come back in. But I can't make them go wherever it is. So it's their choice. It's free will. We all have free will, living and dead.
Yeah, I agree completely with that. Yeah.
But we can suggest, we can let them. Children are, what do you think about children?
Children ghosts?
Yeah.
Oh, they need a lot of help.
They do.
They need a lot of help. There's a lot of fear there, a lot of confusion, especially if there isn't another ghost on the other side offering some sort of support for them. Yeah. I haven't had much contact with children. Sarah Logan is one, and maybe a few others somewhere, but I don't run into children.
I had a case. Do you remember when we went to that dam? Did you go that night?
Oh yes, yes, I did.
We were shooting and we went down to this. What was it called? Deadwood or
I don't know. It was like a little
lake
lake or something.
Yeah, and so we go down this deserted road. So it was freaky because there was only one way in or out.
Oh, yeah.
And the legend was this little boy was haunting it, and that he had. Nobody knew what had happened, but he had died.
He drowned.
He drowned. So I really was expecting to find nothing, and there he was. And so I said, you can stay close to me. And so there was another man over in this thing that had died as well, and the boy, I guess, had been abducted from his home. He'd been put into this, well, he said it was dark, and then he ended up in the water, and that's where he knew. So because I said, you can stay close to me, and I didn't say, no, you need to stay here, home he comes with me. So he was in my home for a period of time, and I thought, okay, I put toys down, but I'm like, no, this isn't right. Well, I had another woman who had followed me home from another place. I don't do this anymore, but back then everybody was coming home with me. So I asked her, can you help him? And I was doing rods back then. I said, her name is Sarah, and I said, Sarah, can you help him to go? And I said, would you? And she goes, yes. So I was sitting on the ground explaining to him what it was that we would like to do and to take him home, and so we did, or she did. All of a sudden I just knew the energy was gone. I didn't know where he went. I didn't know what Sarah did, but she came back. I felt her come back and I said, is he okay? Yes, he's okay. And that's all she would say. A few years later, I was having a reading done by someone who knew nothing about this, because I never talk about it, because it had to do with the child spirit. And she said, oh, there's a couple that want to talk to you. And I'm looking behind me thinking there's somebody here, and there was nobody. And I said, she goes, yeah, they want to say thank you. And I said, so they're dead? She goes, yeah. And I said, okay. And I said, well, tell them that you're welcome. I didn't know. And they said, so it seems that you brought their son home to them. And I'm like, and I'm telling you, and I started crying. Sure. Because I didn't know where he went. But they were saying, we were looking for him and we couldn't find him, and you helped him to come home. I still get teary-eyed when I think about it.
See, that's wonderful.
But it was, so it's, I've learned, children, adults, you don't want them coming home with you. You want to help them where they're at, but you don't want that energy in your house to change, because it's another person in your house that's taking up space. But beautiful story. Oh my gosh.
It is. It's great.
Great.
I love that.
How do you feel about teens doing paranormal investigations?
A lot of guidance, and generally, it depends a whole lot on maturity too. So I'm really not keen on that whole idea of it, because I think you need to protect yourself. You need to know what you're doing. It requires some maturity, some ability, some disciplined thought. And I just don't think a lot of teenagers are quite ready for that.
I also think with their hormones going crazy during that time, that they're very unstable.
They also have them being younger than teens.
Well, years ago, not too many years ago, the producers of Destination Truth asked me to participate in this show called The Other Siders, which was being shown on Cartoon Network.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It was a bunch of school kids, I think some in 7th and 8th grade, and they had all this equipment, including, a Fleur and all this expensive stuff, and a nice station wagon driven by the 17-year-old. And they would go out to all these places,
the Scooby Gang,
and do their investigations, and they had the cameras on their faces so you could see them walking around and making expressions. It was really very, very well-supported production. It only lasted 1 season, fortunately, because it just didn't seem right. They had these kids go into a haunted location, and they would all get together afterwards and review evidence and kind of vote, is it haunted, is it not haunted, and all that.
I've seen that. Used to
The
be on
Other Siders.
HBO.
Well,
But it's not
on Cartoon
that
Network.
there was a young fella that would bring three kids in, and they each took their turn.
That's a different one.
Oh,
that's like a competition show. This was just a group called The Other Siders, and it was on Cartoon Network for 1 season, like I said. And 2 guys who were producers of Destination Truth were behind all this, Casey Brummells and Brad Coleman. And it didn't last. And I just think it was, the kids are too young to know what's going on. And they went to some scary places. They went to the Linda Vista Hospital in Los Angeles, which is really a haunted spot.
Oh, yeah.
Hospitals are really intense, and I just think it was a little too much for them.
It's wrong.
Oh, my goodness.
And the sad part is that the reason they do this is because then they get the viewers and then they get money, and it's money based. And so they're not thinking about the kids. And I know they say that they are, but I really believe that if they really thought about the kids, and the psychic kids are the same, that they wouldn't be doing this. They wouldn't be putting these kids in these, because it's almost worse than they start regular, and then it gets to a more dangerous spot, a more haunted spot, and these kids have no idea, and the people with them don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So
the thing I don't like about the Paranormal Kids show is I think it's unethical to reveal a minor's emotional disturbances on television or in any other media. I just think it's unethical for a parent to allow their child's emotional problems and so forth to be aired that way. I think it's, like you said, it's money driven.
They don't get paid.
No. The people who make the money, it's the producers.
It's the producers and the advertising, but the people that actually go on that show do not. I swear they don't get paid. I know that for a fact.
Okay, well, I think they're probably feeling that they're going to get some advantage out of it. Maybe some inroad into paranormal television or something.
That could be.
But I just think it's improper to take your kid who may be emotionally, challenged, if not disturbed, and start using that to build a TV show on. I just think it's not right. There are certainly kids who have a lot of paranormal experiences who may need help and guidance, but I don't think a television show is the proper venue for that.
It's not, and then you've got these kids putting themselves out there, and then they go back to normal life, and there's still people who believe that what I do, what you do, what these kids are is all evil, and I still get that, and I'm like shocked, but it's it's the way our society is still.
Or they think you're crazy.
Yeah,
there's still some people out there like that. It's not nearly so frequent as it used to be. Even 10 years ago, if you were talking as we are out in front of the public people, they would think these folks are crazy. But now it's kind of a normal thing.
The viewers are hearing a woman or a small child, and they've heard it several times.
Really?
Hey, that was a knocking on the wall.
Oh,
Pay attention to me!
Did you hear the knock on the wall when Donna was talking at one time?
Yeah, pay attention.
Well, maybe we're putting out this vibe that we are receptive.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. And your house is nuts anyway.
We're close to Mount Diablo, aren't we?
Yeah, my house is haunted, honey.
Yeah.
So Jeff, can you tell? Oh yeah, they're hearing them. Can you tell us what's happening with you? Anything new coming up?
Yeah, I'm going to Oregon the second weekend of March to speak at the Oregon City Paranormal Conference.
Nice.
It's organized by the Olympic Peninsula Paranormal Society. It's going to be a lot of fun. Fairly small conference probably, but Oregon City has an underground, they've got the tunnels, and they've got a lot of haunted locations. So we're going to do ghost tours in the evenings and speakers during the days, and that's a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday conference. That's the second weekend of March. And then March 30th through April 1st, I'm joining up with a cast of Paranormal State here in the Bay Area. We're going to be running a paranormal conference that includes the USS Hornet in Alameda, Alcatraz, and a haunted hotel in San Francisco, probably the Queen Anne Hotel in San Francisco. It's going to be a big event that's going on then. And
You should go to San Remo.
He has
I've done an
You
event
did.
there. Yeah, the San Francisco Ghost Society had an event there,
Yes.
and that was really a neat spot. San Remo Hotel in San Francisco. Was
We
really
had some good times.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
When that, we'll have to talk about all our experiences.
Yeah.
So I've got that, and then I'm going to be at Winchester Mystery House on Friday the 13th in April. That's the next Friday the 13th. They're usually there on Fridays the 13th and Halloween. I'll be signing books and walking around. And I'm going to talk to the manager about us doing a something in the seance room and go in there for an hour or two after the place shuts down at night. I think that's probably doable.
Oh, that'd
be a lot of fun.
fabulous. Oh my God,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then I'm going to continue writing. I'm working on Ghost Hunter's Guide to Oregon and the Oregon coast, to Portland and the Oregon coast right now. I've got about 40% of it finished. I'll be going up to Oregon several times in the next 6 months and try to finish the book by the middle of June.
Nice.
It'll come out early in 2013.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah, part of the publishing business that I don't like is there's a big delay between the time you finish a book and the time you get it in print.
Oh, yeah.
Usually a big delay. So if I finish that book in June, it'll come out in May of 2013. That seems like a
Oh
long
my
time away.
God.
But yeah, they take close to a year to get these things all edited
All
and
set.
printed up
Okay.
and everything. But so I'm working on Oregon, and then once I finish that in June, I'm going to start looking at other spots. People have said, why don't you write about Nevada and Virginia City and all that? But Janice Oberding has that territory pretty well done. She's a really good writer, and I think she covers it well. So I'm looking into going down to Santa Fe, New Mexico, and that territory down in the southwest.
Alaska.
Yeah, we're going to
That's an
Alaska for
amazing
vacation
area.
in July, but you know,
Magical.
it's tough to get up there 3 or 4 times in the space of 6 months.
Maybe you should go once in there, they all come and talk to you.
Yeah,
I'll go.
yeah.
There's a fabulous house up there. It's a madam. It was a brothel, and her name is Dolly. And I met Dolly, and so Dolly was fabulous because she was in her bed and she wants all the men to come up still. The thing was, is with Dolly, she was a very kind of large woman. She was kind of like Mae West. Blonde hair, she loved the community, she loved her job, fascinating, but she was really upset because you go through her house and they have little tape recorders that you push the button and you hear about her. And so they were saying how much she weighed, which she was really upset about, and then what her shoe size was, which she was a big woman, so pretty big shoes, but she was upset about that. She was upset that there was no dogs up there, and she was upset that all her stuff was left out overnight. She wanted them to put it away. So, very interesting woman. But Dolly, you'll have to go to Dolly's house.
Yeah, well, we're going up there in July, and maybe we'll look into that.
Nice. Alaska's amazing.
Yeah, it's a fun place.
So again, Jeff, you wanted to give them your website?
My website is www.jeffdwyer.com, and that last name is Irish. It's spelled D-W-Y-E-R. So tune in. New things go on Sunday and Wednesday, and I put pictures up there every once in a while. And if you have a paranormal question that you'd like to pose to me, send it to me by email. You can access my email through the website, and I'll answer it on my Paranormal Question and Answer of the Week, which is posted every Sunday.
Well, Jeff, we want to thank you so much for being our guest
This is
tonight.
my so
It was
fast.
Yeah, it did.
2 hours went by.
I'll give you another two.
So thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Donna.
Yes.
And thank you, viewers, for watching our show tonight. And thank you so much. So we're going to sign off and say good night.
Blessings
Bye-bye.
everybody.